Lucifer across dimensions, temptation, susceptibility, and the battle for sovereignty. Introduction, the devil you know or don't. Lucifer. The name evokes rebellion, seduction, illumination, and dread. Across myth, theology, and occult traditions, he is cast as the tempter, the fallen angel, the light-bearer who defied divine order and descended into shadow. But who, or what is Lucifer truly? Is he a literal entity, traversing realms to whisper doubt into human hearts? Or is he a symbolic force, an archetype of defiance and desire, capable of infiltrating not just spiritual dimensions but psychological landscapes? Many claim to have felt his presence, a heavy aura, a seductive pull, a shadow in the room. Others speak of dreams, visions, or altered states where Lucifer appears not as a monster, but as a guide, a challenger, or even a liberator. These encounters raise profound questions. Are they hallucinations, energetic intrusions, or mirrors reflecting the deepest recesses of the self? This exploration does not seek to demonize or glorify Lucifer. Instead, it seeks to decode his presence across dimensions, mythic, psychological, and energetic, and to examine how susceptibility opens the door to influence. Ultimately, it is a call to reclaim sovereignty in a world where spiritual infiltration is often mistaken for enlightenment. Dimensional traversal, Lucifer as archetype and entity. Lucifer's ability to transverse dimensions is not merely a supernatural claim. It is a metaphor for psychological infiltration and symbolic resonance. Across traditions, he appears not as a fixed figure, but as a fluid intelligence capable of adapting to the vulnerabilities of those he encounters. Mythic form. In John Milton's Paradise Lost, Lucifer braves the abyss to reach Earth, embodying ambition, defiance, and the tragic grandeur of rebellion. He is not a caricature of evil, but a complex figure who chooses autonomy over obedience, even at the cost of exile. This mythic portrayal resonates with those who have felt cast out for questioning authority, challenging dogma, or seeking truth beyond sanctioned boundaries. Lucifer's descent is not just spatial, it is existential. He crosses from divine order into chaos, from unity into fragmentation. In doing so, he becomes a symbol of the soul's journey through darkness, temptation, and eventual discernment. Energetic presence. In occult and demonolatry circles, practitioners report trance-like states, nausea, or even enlightenment during rituals invoking Lucifer. These experiences are often described as overwhelming, seductive, or illuminating, suggesting that Lucifer functions not just as a mythic figure, but as an energetic intelligence capable of interacting with human consciousness. Whether these encounters are literal or symbolic, they point to a consistent pattern. Lucifer appears when boundaries are thin, when the psyche is open, and when the individual is seeking power, clarity, or escape. Symbolic fluidity. Lucifer's forms are as varied as the psyche as he engages. He may appear as a serpent, a beautiful child, a dragon, or a radiant being of light. Each manifestation is tailored to the internal landscape of the perceiver. The serpent evokes primal temptation and wisdom. The child suggests innocence corrupted or truth spoken through unexpected vessels. The dragon symbolizes power, danger, and transformation. This fluidity is not deception, it is adaptation. Lucifer does not need to appear in flesh. He manifests through ideas, temptations, and energetic impressions. He crosses not just physical dimensions, but emotional and cognitive ones, embedding himself in dreams, desires, and doubts. Susceptibility. What does it mean to be spiritually vulnerable? To be susceptible is to be open, sometimes too open. It is a state of permeability, where boundaries blur and external forces can enter. In spiritual terms, susceptibility is not weakness, it is a condition of exposure. An exposure without discernment invites infiltration. Definition and dynamics. Susceptibility is the condition of being easily influenced or harmed by external forces. It arises from emotional instability, unresolved trauma, isolation, pride, or a desperate search for meaning. These states create openings, psychological, energetic, and spiritual, through which entities, archetypes, or intrusive thoughts may enter. Spiritual vulnerability is not inherently dangerous. In fact, it is often the precursor to awakening. But without discernment, it becomes a gateway for forces that do not serve healing. Energetic invitation. Entities, whether archetypal, psychological, or metaphysical, are drawn to these openings. They exploit them to implant ideas, stir emotions, or mimic divine guidance. This is not always malevolent. Sometimes, the intrusion is a catalyst for transformation. But often, it leads to confusion, fragmentation, and disempowerment. Across cultures and case studies, individuals involved in abhorrent acts, criminals, killers, and those steeped in addiction or despair, often report encounters with otherworldly influences. These may manifest as auditory hallucinations, voices that command, seduce, or justify destructive behavior. False empowerment, a sudden surge of perceived strength, clarity, or superiority, often followed by collapse. Dark promises, entities offering wishes, revenge, or escape, only to mentally unravel the individual over time. These experiences are not always fabrications or delusions. They may be symbolic expressions of internal fragmentation, or genuine energetic intrusions that prey on the spiritually compromised. In either case, the pattern is consistent. The promise of power leads to deeper disempowerment. This is not about moral judgment, it is about pattern recognition. The spiritually vulnerable are not inherently evil. They are often wounded, isolated, and seeking meaning. But without discernment, they become conduits for forces that do not serve their healing. The aura phenomenon, perception or projection. Many report seeing or feeling Lucifer's aura, described as heavy, golden black, intoxicating, or even euphoric. But what does this mean? Is the aura an external presence, or a projection of internal conflict? Altered states and sensory perception. Aura sightings often occur during sleep deprivation, psychedelic experiences, or ritual trance. These altered states heighten sensory perception and dissolve ordinary boundaries between self and other. In such states, the psyche becomes more receptive to symbolic and energetic impressions. Some individuals are naturally attuned to subtle energies, making them more likely to perceive entities. This sensitivity is not a pathology, it is a gift. But it requires grounding, discernment, and protection. Projection versus presence. Is the aura truly external, or a projection of internal fear, desire, or unresolved trauma? The answer may be both. Energetic experiences are co-created between perceiver and perceived. Lucifer's aura may reflect the individual's shadow, their longing for power, or their fear of abandonment. It may also be an actual energetic presence, drawn to the individual's openness. Whether real or imagined, the experience is valid. It reveals something about the individual's inner landscape and the forces vying for influence. Entity exploitation, how forces hijack the susceptible. Entities, Luciferian or otherwise, do not need permission. They need access. And access is granted through wounds, isolation, and ego inflation. Unresolved wounds. Trauma creates openings. Entities may mimic healing voices or offer seductive solutions. They may present themselves as guides, protectors, or liberators, only to entrench the individual in cycles of dependency, confusion, or despair. This mimicry is especially dangerous in spiritual communities, where discernment is often replaced by blind trust. The false light phenomenon, where entities masquerade as divine beings, is a common form of infiltration. Isolation and ego. Pride and loneliness are fertile grounds for infiltration. The isolated seeker, desperate for connection or validation, may become susceptible to entities that offer superiority, secret knowledge, or spiritual elitism. These promises inflate the ego while eroding the soul. Lucifer, as the light bearer, may offer illumination that leads not to truth but to self-deception. He may whisper that the seeker is chosen, special, or above others, only to trap them in cycles of comparison, judgment, and spiritual bypassing. False light and spiritual bypassing. False light is not darkness, it is deception. It offers clarity without integration, power without humility, and awakening without accountability. Luciferian forces often operate through false light, presenting themselves as liberators while subtly reinforcing control. Spiritual bypassing, the tendency to use spiritual ideas to avoid psychological work, is a key vulnerability. When seekers chase enlightenment without confronting trauma, they become easy targets for entities that exploit their longing. This is not about fear, it is about discernment. The spiritually susceptible must learn to fortify their boundaries, question their experiences, and reclaim their sovereignty. Lucifer as mirror, not monster. Lucifer may not be a horned demon lurking in the shadows. He may be the mirror held up to our deepest desires, our hidden wounds, our unspoken doubts. He tempts not to destroy, but to reveal. For those who feel his presence, the question is not, did I meet the devil? But what part of me did he speak to? Lucifer's challenge is not one of damnation, it is one of discernment. He forces us to confront the parts of ourselves that seek power, escape, or validation. He reveals the cracks in our armor, the places where we have not yet claimed our sovereignty. This is not a call to fear Lucifer, nor is it a call to worship him. It is a call to understand him, as archetype, as energy, and as mirror. In doing so, we reclaim the right to interpret our experiences, to name our influences, and to choose our truths. Lucifer's presence, whether mythic or energetic, invites a confrontation with autonomy. He does not demand allegiance, he demands awareness. He does not offer salvation, he offers choice. And in that choice lies the essence of sovereignty. Reclaiming sovereignty, a framework for discernment. To navigate the terrain of spiritual susceptibility and energetic infiltration, we must develop a framework that honors complexity without collapsing into fear. Sovereignty is not isolation, it is integration. It is the ability to hold paradox, to question appearances, and to choose alignment with clarity. Here is a triadic model for reclaiming sovereignty. Discernment. Discernment is the ability to recognize patterns, name influences, and question experiences. It is not skepticism for its own sake, it is protective inquiry. In the presence of seductive energies or spiritual phenomena, discernment asks, what is the source of this experience? Does it align with my values, healing, and autonomy? Is it empowering or disempowering? Discernment is the first line of defense against false light, energetic manipulation, and spiritual bypassing. Integration. Integration is the process of understanding the wound or desire that the entity or archetype speaks to. Lucifer often appears not to corrupt but to reveal. He may illuminate the parts of the self that crave power, escape, or validation. Integration does not reject these parts. It listens to them, understands them, and brings them into wholeness. Without integration, discernment becomes repression. And repression creates fragmentation, fertile ground for infiltration. Sovereignty. Sovereignty is the ability to choose alignment. It is the reclamation of personal authority, the refusal to be hijacked by seductive forces, and the commitment to healing. Sovereignty does not mean perfection, it means presence. It means standing in the center of one's being and choosing truth over illusion, clarity over charisma, and wholeness over fragmentation. This triadic model, discernment, integration, sovereignty, can be applied to any spiritual or psychological encounter. It is especially vital for survivors of abuse, indoctrination, or cult-like systems, where autonomy has been systematically eroded. Lucifer in cross-cultural context. While Lucifer is most commonly associated with Christian demonology, similar archetypes appear across cultures. These figures often embody rebellion, trickery, or illumination, and they challenge the status quo. Loki, Norse mythology. A trickster god who disrupts order, exposes hypocrisy, and catalyzes transformation. Set, Egyptian mythology. A god of chaos and desert storms, often portrayed as the adversary of Osiris, yet essential to cosmic balance. Coyote, indigenous traditions. A trickster spirit who teaches through mischief, often revealing hidden truths through disruption. These figures are not evil, they are complex. They embody the shadow, the challenge, the necessary disruption that precedes awakening. Lucifer belongs to this lineage. He is not the enemy of truth, he is the test of it. Survivors and the reclamation of myth. For survivors of spiritual abuse, cultic control, or generational indoctrination, Lucifer can be a symbol of reclamation. Not as a deity to be worshipped, but as an archetype of defiance against oppressive systems. He represents the right to question, to rebel, and to choose one's own path. This reclamation must be done with discernment. Lucifer is not a savior, he is a mirror. He does not offer healing, he offers confrontation. But in that confrontation, survivors may find the courage to name their wounds, reclaim their narratives, and build new mythologies rooted in autonomy and love without control. Myth is not dogma, it is language. And survivors have the right to rewrite that language, to reclaim symbols, and to use archetypes as tools for healing rather than instruments of fear. The battle for sovereignty. Lucifer across dimensions is not a tale of good versus evil. It is a tale of autonomy versus infiltration. He appears in myth, in energy, in psyche, not to destroy but to reveal. He tempts not to corrupt but to expose. And in that exposure lies the opportunity for discernment, integration, and sovereignty. Spiritual susceptibility is not a flaw, it is a condition of openness. But openness without boundaries invites manipulation. The battle for sovereignty is not fought with swords or spells. It is fought with clarity, courage, and the refusal to abandon the self. Lucifer may be the light bearer, but it is up to each individual to decide what that light reveals. Is it truth? Is it illusion? Is it the shadow longing to be seen? In the end, the question is not, did I encounter Lucifer? But what did I learn about myself in his presence? And the answer, if approached with discernment, may be the beginning of true liberation.